Reading comprehension is in serious danger. And no, this isn't some cranky anti-technology rant bringing up the same old thing again. Do you spend hours on your phone? If not, this warning highlights evidence that risks your brain health and quality of life. You'll understand it in 10 minutes. Even if you don't plan to read Tolstoy or become a scholar, poor comprehension can impact your work, relationships, and emotions. Yes, as I said, I'm Dr. Borja Bandera, and today I'll explain what mechanisms are harming your reading ability and how to fix it, with very simple guidelines. If you follow this, you'll have reversed the problem in less than 30 days, and you'll be one of the few who resist this widespread digital dementia. Let me ask you a question. Is written language natural or acquired? Rather, the latter. We are not born with brain circuits specifically dedicated to reading, rather, when you read. The brain links regions for vision, hearing, and language to connect written symbols with sounds, images, and meanings. But our reading ability is dying. Have you noticed it's getting harder to read? Your comprehension has declined and you get bored. Reading used to feel different, right? That you can read fewer pages before stopping or picking up your phone. That going into a bookstore and browsing books attracts you less? That you're more impatient than before? Well, this isn't something that's only happening to you. It's a systemic problem and we have data on it. We're becoming population-wide dyslexic, becoming illiterate. What's happening? Well, it's simpler than that. Your brain has adapted to something else. Synaptic plasticity adapts the brain to the predominant stimulus. We're not clumsier or less intelligent. We're just more adapted to a rapidly changing digital world. The digital world values speed and scanning over deep engagement, often discouraging depth. That's because your brain reacts differently to reading on a screen than on paper. Eye movement studies show that when we read screens, we don't read linearly. We read in an F pattern, we read the first 2 lines completely, less of the next one, and then we do a vertical scan down the left margin. This turns into a search for keywords or data, but without going deeper. This meta-analysis on the screen inferiority effect examined the reading habits of over 170,000 participants. It found that there is much lower reading comprehension when reading on a screen compared to paper, especially with long and complex texts. Contrary to expectations, the more digital the generation, the worse they comprehend complex texts on screens. Younger screen introduction leads to lower academic performance later on, and don't forget that 40% of teenagers' waking time is spent in front of a screen. Yes, almost half the time they're awake. But luckily, there's an antidote to all this. And no, it's not throwing your phone down the toilet. The antidote is the following. The antidote to this cognitive decline, digital dementia, or brain rot, as some now call it, is the simplest and most beautiful thing we can recover. Simply the habit of reading. It's not as addictive, it's not as stimulating, at least not at first. It's not as simple, it's not ultra-processed for your brain. It's real food for your brain, and it's the best thing it can consume if you want to keep it healthy for as long as possible. The goal isn't to forget about screens, it's to build a biliterate brain. That is, to train your brain to be able to switch gears between digital scanning mode and deep analog analysis mode without the first weakening the second. Here are some guidelines I suggest you follow. I'm using them too, and things have gotten much better. My reading rewires cognitive power, kind of like making a reading hit. It's likely that you've completely lost the reading habit. I love reading in phases. I've been obsessed with reading, but now I'm not even reading 30% of what I used to read. If this is happening to you, you'll feel frustrated wishing you could read like you did in 2010, finishing books in 3 evenings. Start by applying the principle of progressiveness. Set incremental goals. Use a hit-type mindset. I use a handheld stopwatch, which I didn't bring, but you can buy it for €7 on Amazon. What I do is set myself the goal of reading without any interruptions, unless the house catches on fire. I'll start by reading non-stop for 10 minutes, then increase to 15 and keep going until I can read an hour straight. Something that today seems totally huge, extraordinary to us. The second point is the halfway rule, depending on the purpose. Do you know it, or should I explain? Use screens for quick news, emails, searching for specific data, inquiries, or entertainment. But for deep reading, critical analysis, scientific articles, or memorization, paper is much better. Sometimes I print out the articles I want to read so I can underline and study them without distractions. The difference in comprehension and how much I memorize is huge. Taking notes by hand is even better. Third, when reading digitally, pause every few paragraphs to reflect. Am I able to mentally summarize what I just read, or did my eyes just skim over it? If you can't summarize it, then you've fallen into brain rot mode. Reading is your self-care space. We often feel guilty for taking half an hour to read when tasks remain, but that time is your mental gym, just as your workout is your physical gym. In today's environment, reading is the simplest and most cost-effective activity to prevent digital dementia. Or whatever you want to call it, yes, those apps that block other apps are great, the boxes where you put your phone and open it a week later, all of that is great. They're physical barriers, but reading is the simplest and most beautiful thing you can do to avoid this. Fifth point, stop reading while multitabbing. What does that mean? When you have several tabs open, and we usually keep them open to make our work easier, your brain unconsciously wants to see what's new. It knows you're just one click away from checking if a new email has come in, a WhatsApp message, checking your stock portfolio, or if the pending transfer has arrived. Ideally, only use the tabs that help with your task when working on a computer. Which of these do you actually practice? We're reading your comments. If you want help with your nutrition, training, or hormones, you can contact us at Empodera Academy. See you in the next video. A big hug and keep empowering yourself.